Hey there and welcome. Let me just share my screen with you. We have an interesting one here today. I can come a little bit larger. There we go. There we go. In the right spot. My gosh, today we have an interesting one. You know, in job search, we have a lot of rules to follow. We'll talk about that a little bit today. Some of those rules I don't agree with, by the way, which you'll hear certainly today. Some of those rules are must send a Word document. Well, of course, I'd never send a Word document, always a PDF. Check out my resume renovation lecture to understand why and really to know what to do with your resume to really make it effective. But there's a lot of different things. Those ads that say must apply online. Okay. Must do it. Must do it. Or what? Won't be considered. If we are the best at what we do in our entire field, they're going to not consider us because we didn't apply online, because we went right to the decision maker. Well, I hope you realize how that is just essentially nonsense. I do understand why they'd like to channel those things through HR to control the flow. But if you know you're the right one for that role, why would you let someone that does not have the background for that particular role assess you and determine your fate, whether or not you move forward or not? So we're going to talk about a lot of interesting things here today as we begin to move forward. This is about taking back control. This lecture, more than probably any of the others, probably it takes that a little bit further. And that means rather than simply playing the game, and I hate to use a word like game, but rather than playing the game the way they've set it up with rules that work against us, maybe I devise my own playing field where I have easy access to the decision makers and I can whisper sweet nothings of my contribution possibilities right into their ear, changing the equation very, very quickly. This is the paradigm shift in job search, how to market yourself directly to the decision maker. It's a game changer. This is a game changer, whether you're an executive or whether you're working something a little more hands-on. A lot of problems in the workforce, which we're going to touch on today. And this outreach process of an expert like yourself in whatever your role is, reaching out to a decision maker that needs your expertise, that actually is going to be met very, very well, as long as you keep in mind a couple things. And that is, it is always a date, no matter what. You know, job search it is a sales process. Nobody likes that part. Oh, sales. I get it. Nobody likes that part. But it is a sales process, so we have to embrace that part of it. But it's more than a sales process. It's both a sales process combined with a dating process. Ugh, it's even worse. It's even worse, right? So we're going to get into all of that today and kind of lay out some of the problems and some of the opportunities that dynamic opens up for you. As you see on screen here, today's lecture and all of my lectures are about really transforming yourself into a self-recruiter. That is one amazing recruiter that looks after one great candidate, which is you. So yes, it involves you being the planner, the strategist, the person, and sometimes the cheerleader. You may even have to lift yourself up by the bootstraps and dust yourself off and get yourself ready to compete again, or maybe even for that next conversation if the last interview didn't go as well. By the way, if your interviews aren't going as well, I highly recommend my interview intervention lecture. I think everybody needs an intervention before their next interview because they don't understand it's a sales meeting. It's a sales meeting that you should be controlling in the gentlest way possible, so they certainly feel in control. But you're there to present and sell and persuade them that you're the very best one. Check out the interview intervention lecture. So becoming this self-recruiter, the core of it is beginning to look at networking in a very different way. So do check out my LinkedIn lecture, Building Your Professional Network with LinkedIn, how to use it for your job search. That will give you all the secrets how to really take your resume, bring it over to LinkedIn, but how to transform that now into a three-dimensional sales brochure, all about you naturally driving the reader to one conclusion. My gosh, if I hire this person, if I work with this person on this project, best business decision I make today. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but that is the core. How can you be the very, very best? Now, if you're going to be the very, very best, last part of this paragraph is pretty clear. You have to also keep one eye on the toughest competitor imaginable. You know, those people that would scare you out of even going after the job. Oh, they're going after it. Yeah, that person. you can beat that person very, very easily, because those people who seem dazzling, and some of them are dazzling, but the ones that seem dazzling suffer from something called ego and arrogance much of the time. And so they don't really prepare. They dust themselves off and they go, oh, who are they going to hire? Oh, they're going to hire me. Then they don't actually do their homework. They don't do the real work. A lot of the ideas are in my book, Self-Recruiter, Changing the Rules. I'm a big believer in let's change any rule that does not work for us. If that rule works for us and we like it, oh, I love that rule. I love it. I love it. That rule doesn't work for me. Oh, that's for somebody else. So no phone calls. You see that in the ads sometimes. No phone calls. Well, as a recruiter, and maybe I should share just a little bit about my background. Previously, I was a recruiter on a desk. This is after being a manager in corporate and doing lots of hiring and firing. Then I went into recruiting, recruiter on a desk, did 3 different disciplines. 2 of them I did as national market, simply means I never met anybody, could talk to anybody over the phone and make placements anywhere. 1 I did as local market Manhattan. Suddenly I had to meet everybody, changes the dynamic, and interesting things to learn from that shift there. Ended up being the national trainer across our 100 office recruiting system. This is every potential office that would hire a recruiter. They'd come into my 90-day program to teach them how hiring really works. Not how people think it works, but how it actually works behind the scenes. Because when you understand that, you will change your entire approach. All those secrets, by the way, are in my book. It's a great roadmap to help you. Now, let's get back to what we started on, these rules of job search. Must send a Word document, must tell me how little to pay you. What? That's usually compensation needs. It's how little to pay you. Let's understand what the questions really are. Must send a Word document, no phone calls, all that kind of stuff. Must apply online, always going to where? The HR department. By the way, that's a great department for it to go to if you would like to work for HR. If you're not looking for an HR role, that is the only role HR hires, HR folks. All the rest, it's simply facilitation. They try to facilitate the flow, but they don't do the actual hiring. So we get a little confused. Why would you let someone that does not have your professional background judge whether you're worthy enough to speak to the decision maker? You know, if you had the bravery, the courage to find a way, which I will teach you today, how to get to the decision maker, a simple 90-second conversation with that decision maker, they'll know exactly why you're right or not, cannot talk yourself into a role you're not right for. But my gosh, 90 seconds, they'll go, oh, I need a person just like you. I have a need. Let's move forward. So that's a little bit of the idea of rules, but these rules, for the most part, become a rut. I mean, think about someone pacing back and forth until they literally groove out a rut. These rules force us to do things a certain way because they know that's the way it's done. That's what you're supposed to do. And then you click apply, which is really submit. And then you sit there and wait by the phone like it's a Friday night waiting for that thing to ring. It's going to ring. When it does, it's going to be a telemarketer. This is a rut that leaves us in some pretty non-positive places. You know, when I would show this in in-person lectures, people were like, wow, that's not very uplifting. It's not, but this is also part of the state of job search. If you're in job search, you're certainly feeling many of these things and you have to deal with it. We can't simply put our head in the sand and think dealing or feeling these things is not going to affect our performance. You are there to position and sell yourself. So we're going to have to break through a little of this. And a lot of what we're going to use to break through is a complete realignment of how we see the world, a paradigm shift, a metamorphosis. This isn't a little paint and decorations, a little wallpaper. No, this is break it down to the studs and let's rethink everything from an architectural standpoint. So if we're going to do a paradigm shift in how we tell our story, we're going to have unconventional thinking, a lot of creative interpretation, and out of that, the dots will become connected. These moments of clarity, the light bulbs suddenly begin to go off. By the way, if you're not getting your job search questions answered, you should tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow, Friday, June 17th at 11 a.m., I'll be having one of my Ask Self-Recruiter Q&As. These are live Q&As. You can send in questions. All the best questions I get each week are collected in each next episode. Of course, it forms a wonderful library of all sorts of Q&A questions. 10 questions on this, 14 questions on that, 7 questions on career branding, all of that over on my YouTube channel where it collects. Tune in tomorrow at 11 a.m. for that. It'll help you a lot. Send in your questions to ask@selfrecruiter.com. That's ask@selfrecruiter.com. Best ones are always included. So I think here in outreach, we can send off our resume. But if these are decent jobs you're going after, you have to understand that's 1,000 to 2,000 resumes being sent in. Don't mishear that. That is not 1,000 to 2,000 qualified people. There's your good news if you're qualified. This is 1,000 to 2,000 people that saw this job, got excited, and go, oh, maybe they have something for me right around that job. I have a nice background too. They should see me, and that clogs the whole system, and that's a real problem. So, if that's a problem, and it really turns into something like snow blindness or resume blindness, it's like after a few dozen, few hundred, it's like, how do I tell these people apart? They're all the same to me. We have to change these rules. We have to break that cycle that really doesn't work for us, because it's not going to pay off. It's not going to result in what you want. And it ends up far too often with 3 or 4 jobs that was perfect for, never even bothered to call me. So let's think about getting right to the decision maker. It's not very difficult. It does take courage, but you can even do it over just email. You don't have to pick up the phone. It's more effective if you pick up the phone, but you can get about 90% of the way there, 90% of the effectiveness, maybe, if you execute it correctly in an email outreach. We'll take you through that. So who is it that makes these decisions? Who's the decider? There's a troubled phrase, decider or label. It's not simply one individual. Yes, there is an actual decider, but rarely does that person decide in a vacuum. There's all sorts of influencers around them. They could be subordinates. They could be people they report to. They could be peers, other influencers. So we have to think about all the people that we may need to influence the decider. So the decider chooses us. Now, here's most of the workforce. This is the bulk of the workforce, and this is what's wrong with our country, economy, our companies, and that is mediocrity. Most of the workforce is mediocre. Let me read it. Of only moderate quality, not very good, ordinary, average, middling, middle of the road, on and on and on. Amateur, okay, so, come saw, plain vanilla, fair to middling, not up to much, bush league, all sorts of things in here that say, just not really the one that I'd like. Okay, that's not uplifting for our future or economic development or all of that, but if you understand this basic, what do you have to be? Little tiny bit better than mediocre. A little tiny bit better than mediocre, you're ahead of the majority of people. If you simply put a little heart and soul into whatever it is you do, you naturally are going to rise to be the top 1, 2, 3%. That person gets noticed. So maybe we have to approach our career a little less transactionally. Well, if I do that, what do I get? If I take on that responsibility, what do I get? I don't know. But I know if you keep doing the same things you have been doing in your career, I know what's going to happen for you. I work for myself at this point, but I've certainly worked for others many different times in my career. And every time I've held a job working for some other company, I simply act like I own the company. And I don't mean the way it causes laughter in some of my in-person lectures, because they see this person speaking to them and they're, I can imagine that person acting like they own the company. No, I mean, when I do my function, whatever my function is, I act like that is my money invested. I grew up in small business. My parents were in small business. That's what you learn. Decisions matter on every level, especially to the finances. So if you perform your job as if it was your money invested, you'll do a different job. You will naturally begin to rise. At one point in my career working for others, I was being promoted every 4 or 5 months. I'm like, wow, could you slow down a little bit? I'm having chest pains trying to catch up. Am I fooling somebody here with what I bring to the table? Absolutely not. But you know what? My take is always, can you take this on? Absolutely. Put it on my plate. Can you take that? Absolutely. My answer is always yes, unless I really can't deliver it. So I find a way to scale and deliver what's necessary. Really, in jobs working for others, I've never allowed myself to be defined by an 8.5 by 11 single sheet of paper job description. You know what that is? That's a starter idea for my job. You hired my brain. You hired me for my capacity. Here's some starter ideas. I am not limited by that. Don't be mediocre. Let's be the opposite of mediocre. Now let's take that embodiment of not being mediocre and take it into our personal branding. It is very personal. Part of the problem we fall into, the trap, is we then go, okay, well, I'll try to cast myself as cookie cutter, perfect, interchangeable. Okay, I understand it. I get it. But you know what? If you're cookie cutter, perfect, interchangeable, I'll take number 3. I'll take number 3. No, number 3, I'm going to pay you less. I'm going to pay you less. No, you don't want less. Okay, it doesn't matter. I'll take number 2. I'll take number 5. It doesn't matter because you're cookie cutter, interchangeable. If you're only that, you get paid less, and that's what people miss. Oh, I'm perfect. Yes, you're perfect, interchangeable. Here's less money for you. You have to somehow, through your personal branding and your storytelling of your career, not only achieve the interchangeable cookie cutter piece, but somehow also achieve this separate, different, special. That's how you're going to get the right level of offer that you want, the right level of responsibility. And then, of course, you have to carry all of that story, that raising of your own career brand value across all your materials. So make sure you go back and watch my resume renovation lecture. There's a great article on cover letters right over on my Self-Recruiter website under the advice tab called Knock Knock, how to write a cover letter that'll open doors. Make sure you have small things like your printed envelope coming out of your printer if you're sending a thank you. Not handwritten card, maybe with a big black Sharpie marker. Jack, great discussion. John, the real thank you goes by email type thing. LinkedIn profile, building your professional network with LinkedIn and how to use it for your job search. Be sure to watch that lecture and understand even things like your signature block, any other materials you put together for yourself. All of it has to answer one simple question. The singular question that has to be answered is, why is it going to be the very best business decision that I make today if I were to hire you? It's just a shift in your storytelling. Now, I grew up Catholic, so that means I know all about negotiating sin. And there is no sin of omission here. There's only sin of commission. So whatever you decide to put on your career materials, be it resume, LinkedIn, whatever, bio, whatever else you put together for yourself, absolutely has to be letter true. But we can let whatever part of the story drop away we'd like to drop away. That's how you control how the story is perceived. Not confessional. It's a sales meeting. Presentation of all your materials, your outreach, your interviewing, it's all a sales process and a sales meeting. Now we got to get to these decision makers. Just who is this person? Well, this isn't really that complex. We tend to get a little bit pigeonholed in our brain, thinking only about the decider, the boss, who's going to hire me. Yes, that person's important too, but who's the boss's boss, or who's the boss's boss? I tend to like to start 2 or 3 levels above the boss. It's a basic top-down selling technique, very, very simple. That person further up the food chain, I understand they're very scary to you. They are not afraid of you. They're definitely not afraid of you. They look at you as a potential strategic asset for their organization. If you can be a game changer for their organization, my gosh, break through and get to them. The first thing that they will do is refer you right down to the right decision maker. And when you get referred down to the boss, you always get that interview every single time. So depending on where your career is focused, you realize, looking at this kind of spread here, we all really understand who the decider is based on the size of organization that we're with. The titles shift a tiny bit. They might go further down, to a little bit lower than manager, but in a sense, all of these titles are the structure. You have to think about who you're going to pursue and how to look that person up. And we're going to do it with LinkedIn. I'm going to show you exactly how you get to any one of those decision makers and essentially don't apply for the job. But what? Don't apply for the job. That's actually what I tell most of my clients. When they really see something they really want, the first thing I say, well, don't apply for the job. I'm like, well, what? Don't apply for the job? Well, don't officially apply for the job. That means don't go through the HR system. Don't get sent to HR. Don't get filtered out. But do get yourself right to the decision maker. Present yourself as the solution for their pain, their need. And remember every moment that it's a date, which means it's not about you, even though it is. It's about them. LinkedIn, de facto social networking website for our work life. It's really where your career story has to be centered. But the real power of LinkedIn, beyond presenting your 3-dimensional sales brochure about why you're the best of the best, is the fact that you have this 3-level network like you see on screen here. And so this three-level network is an influence network and becomes very, very, very powerful. Now, public speaker, I'm connected to a lot of people, just short of 12,000 people. 3 levels out, that gives me a pool of 21 million people. I can see every decision maker in any direction I'd like to go. I can see exactly who the person is I need to reach out to. So expand your LinkedIn quite a bit. Watch the LinkedIn lecture for that. Let's take you into the actual searches, how we find any decision maker. Unified search box at the top of any page. I go into that. In this example, I'm going to search the company Informatica. That's a big database middleware company. It used to be one of my cash cows many years ago as a recruiter. Lots of placements. Love that company. So I'm going to type in the word Informatica, and you realize they start presenting this drop-down list to you. Don't click on the drop-down. That's a trip down the rabbit hole. Simply enter the name, and suddenly you get this secondary sorting process that pops up. Now, while I'm here, there must be other companies. If I'm interested in Informatica, if there's something there catching my attention, there must be similar companies or competitors that I would be just as equally perfect for. So while I'm here, I need to go, well, what other companies am I missing? A little bit of drink here. Oh, look, it's hidden right under the more. Oh, companies. Show me the companies. What do we have? 34,000 companies. Wow. What's going on? What are all these? I can tell you there's not 34,000 Informaticas. After you get down the list a little bit past the normal Informatica ones, you have all these other companies. Who are these folks? I can tell you. This used to be one of my fields. They're all system integrators. They either resell or install Informatica software. If I am right to work for Informatica, I'm very likely statistically right to work for a great number of these other companies. So that's another way to really begin to put together statistically perfect lists to go after the right companies. A lot more of that in your Supercharging Your Job Search lecture. You should look that one up too. It's a great one. But now I really have to find people. So now I'm back to Informatica in my head. I have to find people. So no, show me the people. What do we get? 2.5 million cold and in the ground before I can get through that list. Okay, so I should mention also that I'm only using the free version of LinkedIn. You should use whatever version you like, but everything I'm teaching you, you can do in the free version. So that's not going to help me. I need to narrow down. You know what? I don't need to see everybody that ever had Informatica in their profile. I need to see the ones that currently work for Informatica and the ones that are in the US. I don't need them all over the globe right now. So let's go into locations, even on the free version, and show me the ones in the US and how about the ones that are currently working for Informatica? Yeah, that's better. And what do I get? 1,615 results. Okay, much better, much better. I can't look at 1,600 people either. That's not going to work. I'm going to have to do a little deeper thinking. So I go back in, even on the free version, and maybe it's a VP. I think a VP is going to hire me. Look at that, just simple VP. Really US, really currently working for Informatica. What do I get? 75 VPs. A lot of chiefs in that company. Maybe it's a director. This is a brainstorming exercise here. This is part of your homework when you're job searching. So let me fish around with a director. Maybe it's a director, really US, really currently working for Informatica. What do I get? 228 directors. Now I'm going the wrong direction. I have it. You know why? Because it's brainstorming. It is problem solving. You have to work through it to get to the right answer. I realize now it's a sales director I'm really looking for. So let me go back and search sales director, of course. And as long as I'm getting more specific, I don't need the whole US. I'm actually looking for greater New York City, even on the free version. Plus currently working for Informatica, of course. And what do I get? 3. I suddenly have 3. What you're actually after is 3 to 5 individuals at every organization that you're going after. So I made the minimum, but do you think John is ever happy with the minimum? No. Minimum is fine. That's the minimum. But if I could get 5 people and approach 5 different people, that increases my odds significantly. With 3, yeah, I'll probably get maybe 1 response if I put out the right message. But if I put out 5 messages, I'm probably going to get 2, maybe even 3 responses if it's a great message. So I'd like to find more. So maybe there's also a sales VP, Greater New York City, really currently working for Informatica. And what do I get? 2 more. There, I'm up to 5. Now I have 5 people that I can reach out to as if they were the only person in the world. Now I talk a lot more on this in the LinkedIn lecture. Be sure to watch that. But really, in this whole process of finding these 5, I would have naturally looked through other titles and tried to assemble the organizational chart around these 5 people so I get a little bit of sense. And what I'm really going to do is pick out 25 to 30 people that completely surround where I see my job or think my job should be. And I start opening all their profiles like I teach in my LinkedIn lecture, which triggers a marketing event. And I show up looking at them. 6 people have looked at you. Who's looked at me? Once you start looking at that, you can't stop. And so it's really a clever way to get really inside the mind of 25 to 30 people surrounding this job by getting behind the firewall of the company and be looking at them. And they suddenly see you and they go, some of them go, oh, we need a person just like this. You do? So first step is to open the profiles, which triggers the marketing. Second step is while those profiles are open, ask every single one of them to connect with you. Basic message that says, you don't know me. I'm professionally appropriate. Here's a little stroke to your ego as well. Sounds as simple as I like to connect with other professionals in our niche, depending how we like to say that. And of course, I'd love to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. You don't know me, professionally appropriate, little stroke to the ego. You probably get, if you did 25 to 30, probably get 10, 12 acceptances pretty quickly. Oh, I know you would like them all. It's not really about that. Each of those actions, the opening, the asking to connect, is picking up a fish hook, sliding a worm onto the fish hook, tossing out into the pond, and be brave enough for it to wiggle around and wait for someone to grab it. The goal is to get them to click on your name to open your sales brochure. That's the real goal. Now, key to this is no waiting. This is a sales process. So I open, I ask to connect. I simply don't wait for an answer because it's irrelevant. Out of the same 25 to 30, I've now picked 5 people, 3 to 5 people. And now those people, you have to reach out directly by real email. This is not a LinkedIn message. This is a real email. It is not brain surgery to get almost anybody's email within 2 or 3 minutes. I am going, that's 99% of the people. You got to let that 1% you can't get go. Time is your only resource. So these people I'm going to reach out as if each of them are the only person in the world. Dear Jack, dear Jim, dear Jill, by first name. I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. I'm so excited by what I see going on with your company. Of course, I'd name whatever their company is rather than say your company. And then I have to tell them because they're like, oh, really? What is it? My hair, my eyes? What? I saw that Wall Street Journal article on your new such and such launch. Because I went and looked for it. It's my homework. Those things are always so good to get. Speak to them like a real human being. Why don't you talk to them like a dear old friend? And then because I've stroked their ego about that project, now if I could add value to it, I go, back when I was with XYZ company, I handled a very similar launch. All you have to have is a carrot now to get a meeting. A meeting is an interview. I'd love to come in and meet with you where I could share how we tackled all those issues I bet your team's experiencing. Now it's time to go for the jugular. I have an opening on my calendar Tuesday at 10 a.m. One day, one time, never more. This is a device to get them to react. If you're open all next week, I'm never meeting with you. You are not valuable. So be careful. One day, one time, get them to react. So let's just show you one more piece before we go off of these 5 individuals. You notice if we look a little closer, Nick here has this send in-mail rather than the connect. Send in-mail. First off, please understand in-mail before you send it. In-mail is literally spam. The definition of spam is paid email. This is paid email. This is paid advertisement right into your box, which I can tell you my inbox on LinkedIn has well over 1,000 unopened messages, clogging up some very good messages, which I miss because it's so full of marketing nonsense. So this in-mail is frustrating. I'm not going to send one of those, but if I do want to connect with Nick, if I simply loaded his profile and I get frustrated again with the send in-mail, but if I just was clever enough to click the ... Oh, look, they just hid the connect button over here behind the fence. They'll never find it over here. Oh, it's right there. They can't really prevent you from connecting people. That is their business model. Here's that one message, basic message you write one time ever, copy and paste forevermore. And it communicates all those things. You don't know me. I'm professionally appropriate. Here's a little stroke to the ego. Lots of acceptances out of this. In this part of it, take your first step and understand this is about mechanically getting this engine to run. The more contact, the more volume. It's a sales process. Now, if it's going to be effective in being a sales process, it has to be about them before it's ever about you. That's the nature of engagement. Well, usually I'm showing a different image first, but this really drives home the engagement piece. But today we're going to talk about the mechanical side of the engagement. It's really about how you mechanically get these wheels moving. So, how often should we reach out? How do we uncover phone numbers and emails? All of that. Well, from a frequency standpoint, if you send someone, and I talk to a lot of job seekers that will, well, I went after these 2 jobs, but it's been 2 or 3 weeks and I haven't heard anything. It's like, oh, really? Oh, really? Well, what'd you do? Well, I sent this person an email, and I sent this other person an email. You sent 1 email each 2 or 3 weeks ago, and you think there's some chance they have any knowledge or recollection of your email that was sent 2 or 3 weeks ago? You are so much water over the dam, it's all gone. This is a sales process. It is your job to generate the discussion. Even if that discussion is someone getting frustrated with you, picking up the phone and going, could you stop emailing me? Could you stop reaching out to me? Absolutely, Jack Jim. I'm so sorry. But I have to say, I reached out because I was so excited about what I see going on, and I know I can add value to your team. And so apologies that I kind of disrupted things, but I knew once we spoke, you'd be very happy. By the way, you better feel that, or don't reach out to the person. Your job here is to understand outreach. Now, I could reach out to an individual that I'd never spoken with before 4, 5, or 6 times in 2 or 3 days and not have them be mad at me, because it's really important that you're not simply a parrot repeating everything. It's not 4, 5, or 6 of the identical messages. It's like, oh, there's a parrot that keeps calling me. It's a conversation, even though it's really a monologue. So you have to evolve your discussion to win over their interest until they can't help themselves. They just have to return your call or have to return your email, whatever it might be. Uncovering emails and phone numbers. Emails are pretty easy. You find one person's email at the company. You have every person's email at the company. Simply apply the name to the format, blah, blah, blah. Run over to Google. Let's take Informatica as an example. You take the email portion without the person side. Informatica, it's person side, whatever that is, at informatica.com. So you take at informatica.com, put the whole thing in quotes, pop it in a Google search, and do not click on the results. Look at the results 1, 2, 3 pages in, boom, 99% of the time you're going to spot an email address. Once you have one person's email address, you apply the name to the format and just email them. You can't find it in 2 or 3 minutes. A very quick, expeditious looking, move on to an easier target. Your time is extremely valuable. Phone number is pretty easy there as well. You can simply, if you figure out where the office location might be, you can simply Google the company name, office location, main phone number, and in almost every case, they'll come up. You just haven't done it before, so you haven't seen that kind of like, wow, it's right there. But you do have to think creatively. We're going to have to open our toolbox and figure out what we need help with and what we really already have under control. You're going to have to put some organization to it as well. Now, when you do reach out, whether it's by email or phone, and we'll walk you through both, you have to put together a script. This is a sales process. For most people, it is not going to go well if you did not plan. Hi, this is John. I'd like you to hire me. How'd you get my number? Take me off your list. Security. This is all about me. This is me standing there with a cup with a coin in it, jiggling it. That is not interesting. This is a date. You want to go on a date with somebody jiggling their cup, trying to attract attention with a coin? Not the right one. 30 seconds to live or die. And dying sounds like, how'd you get my number? Take me off your list. Security. Okay, we get that part. This form you can download right from my self-recruiter website, just right under the advice tab, and just look for the job search management system. It's all free. Download it. All the forms are right there. Let's zoom in. I'm going to give you a little bit of idea. This text on the left, this will guide you. You're not going to do it right now. This will guide you as you write your own script. Let me take you through the structure on the right so you get a feel or a sense of how an effective script will work. You're going to greet them, wait for the response. Nobody wants to do that because that's where they go, how'd you get my number? Take me off your list. Never call me again. Security. Okay. Acknowledge their response, because if they're not having a good day, you can't just pretend you didn't hear it. and I'll show you how to react to that. Tell them why you're calling. Get to the point. It's a date. Where's the ruby, diamond, emerald, drop of perfume? What is it that would draw their attention that they couldn't resist? Tell them why you're calling. Remember, it's a date. Your educational background. If you went to one of those schools, there's only about this many. If you went to one of those schools, my gosh, mention it. I've seen the doors literally fly off the hinges for my clients that went to those schools. It's a little startling. If you went to one of those, great. If you went to another really good school, it's not on the list. Let it go. Let it go. It's only in your own brain. Let it go. Handful of them. 2 or 3 key things that will make them jump out of their chair, and then close. Close is simply a scary sales term that means, well, most people don't really understand it. They think they do. They think, oh, that means asking for what you'd like. No, that's actually specifically not closing. That's a component of it, but you have to ask for what you'd like, but then you must ask for agreement to it. That is closing. Nobody wants to ask for the agreement to it because that's where they go, no, take me off your list, security, all that kind of fun stuff. So how might this sound in reality? Well, let's give you the good day. I'm meeting someone on a good day. I've never spoken to them before. I reach out and say I'm doing it by phone, but it's essentially the same whether it's email or phone. 1 or 2 word or verbiage changes, but very, very small. I'm going to reach out to them. Hey, good morning, Jack. By first name. You better believe it. I don't care what their title is or what honoraries they might have or earned degrees they might have. By first name. Hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Crant. How are you doing this morning? Now, when I would teach recruiters to do this, because it's really almost the same thing, I'd have recruiters, new recruiters really, in the back of the room suddenly going, isn't that what everybody does? Yes. Subtitle of my book is Changing the Rules. You change the rules that don't work. When the population has been trained like Pavlov trained those dogs, bring the food out, the dog salivates, bring the food out, start ringing the bell, the dog salivates, keep doing it, the dog salivates, eventually come out, ring the bell, but don't bring the food, and the dog salivates because it's been trained. Same kind of thing here. We're going to use the business training that everyone already has received. We're going to greet them professionally in a way that makes it personal. So I certainly only use their first name, but I need to clearly say my name. And my name is more difficult than people think it is because people mishear it as Grant all the time, but it's Crant, very unique name, which means that I have to find a way to put a space between John and Crant when I say it in a sentence so that people can hear it clearly over the phone. And I go, hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Crant. How are you doing this morning? Now, I can tell you that may have sounded fine, but it feels very strange in your mouth. You have to practice it. Practice, practice, practice makes perfect. Now, from that, you're going to get 1 of 3 responses. The one you want, which is, I'm fine, John. How can I help you? Yay. Or you're going to get the trained dog. I'm fine, John. How can I help you? I'll take it. I'll take it. Keep moving along. Or you're going to get something you don't like. I'm terrible. Ouch. Let's back up and take the terrible because the rest is all identical. Hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Grant. How are you doing this morning? I'm terrible. Well, Jack, let's see if we can change that. Pause. Notice I'm going right to the solution for, for the fact that this person's terrible. Take a little drink. But I'm not going to speed up. Nothing changes. I have to have the same poise. You have to think about how you create desire, how you create interest. So, gosh, Jack, let's see if we can change that. The reason for my call, I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. I'm so excited. It's a date, don't forget. I'm so excited about what's going on at ABC Company. I saw that Wall Street Journal article on your new such and such launch. Oh, those things are always so good to get. Pause. Let's understand how marketing and promotion works. That article you saw someplace, wherever it was, about their new initiative that sounds so phenomenal. You know what that is? That's a turd. That is not successful yet. They would like it to be successful. That story originated from a marketing and PR person pushing that story out. That's how it happens. To manage business, to manage expectations, to manage deliverables, to manage everything they'd like to achieve in their goals. But it's not a success yet. So if you understand that, you stroke their ego about that wonderful success, and then you tell them why you could add value to that, why you could be helpful. Gosh, when I was back at XYZ, handled a very similar launch. I'd love to come in and share with you. Here's that carrot. I'd love to come in and share with you how we tackled all those issues I bet your team's experiencing. That would be valuable to me. That is really worth the conversation, whether that's an in-person discussion over the phone or video conference. That part you don't have to nail down. I'd like to come in and meet with you. That's however I arrive, digitally or physically. Save that part for later. Don't overthink it. Then you have to be brave enough also, once you dangle the carrot, to go for the jugular. Your job is not to let them decide to speak with you. Your job is to make it irresistible and easy for them to speak with you. Oh, like it just occurred to you. I have an opening on my calendar Tuesday at 10 a.m. And then here's the handoff to make them feel in control, as if there's any control on their side, and to solve the only concern, which is don't waste my time. So here it is. I simply go, might that work for a brief meeting? Brief solves the only problem. Oh, don't waste my time. Might makes them feel in control. This is irresistible. Very, very few people will resist wanting to speak with you about the knowledge you bring to the table that could help them solve some of the things. This takes bravery. It is not greatly different if you do it in email. It's a little bit of verbiage change, but very, very little. You have to give yourself a literary license to be casual and organic. Now, what if we're going to do both email and phone? Well, you're one of my favorite job seekers because you're more effective. As I said, you can get probably 85–90% of the way there just through the right use of email. That means no subservience. Reach out to them as an equal. Everybody's by first name. Elevate your brand. Tell them why you can be so valuable to them. Close them for a meeting. Almost as effective right there. But nothing can replace hearing that magic. What I can't hear in your email is your passion, your commitment. So opening a relationship channel, it's about a 1-2 marketing punch. And that means we're going to think about multiple avenues for outreach. Now, those could be regular email and a regular phone call, which likely will go into voicemail. So that's a component of it. But it could also be things like messages through different platforms. I've certainly had people secure their interview, even from saying happy birthday to someone on Facebook that they were obviously connected to, that they'd like to work for. And that person answered back, oh, thank you so much. Oh, I know, I owe you a response to your outreach because they outreached about a job. Suddenly they got the interview. So your story, your message, everything you're going to say, you have to think about the good, the bad, the ugly, and how you're going to make it really effective. It's all about that message. So when you read your messages, when you look at what your outreach plan is that, oh, it's too much about me. There's not enough about them. I know you're dying to talk about yourself and you need to, but you have to lead with talking about them. And your excitement always stems from why they're so excited. So how would you like these other folks to see you? Well, certainly a person with ability and passionate, authoritative, natural leader, all of these things here. But most important is they have to see me as potential future for their organization. That is the real game changer. Now, social media marketing, our way to the new job, that's going to help us as well. That has a lot to do with our success. So make sure you understand how LinkedIn works across this network, how social media marketing works. If you need help with this part of it to elevate your brand, once you've built out the right LinkedIn profile, then you simply watch my career evolution lecture, preparing for your career's next leap with social media marketing. And it's about how you drive, just like a business would, how you drive message about what you bring to the table without sounding egotistical or arrogant, how you drive that across your network. So suddenly you're on the short list when people think of a solution provider. Who is the right person for this? How about this guy over here? You want to think about your reach and the fact that this 3-level network gives you a lot of influence possibility. Your success here is about how much preparation you put into it. If you don't put the preparation into it, you will not be successful. You're going to have to come up with this idea of who you are in the first place. Perception is reality, even though that's kind of a disgusting conclusion. You know, grew up in small business. Perception is reality. Dirtiest thing I ever heard in the 1970s. What do you mean? What do you mean? You know, what you earn, what you build, what you make, that's reality. Yeah, that's what you learn in small business. But today, if we haven't arrived at the point that it is not okay just to do an amazing job alone in the forest, you have to You have to manage the perception of what you deliver, or you'll get left behind. You have to change reality simply by changing perception. And you do that through your proper use of social media, sometimes choosing to follow the rules, sometimes choosing to violate the rules, like reaching directly to the decision maker. Small little changes will change everything. So don't be afraid to take a hard look at you, your product. You are the product that has to be packaged, positioned, lit, the right stagecraft. So look at the resume renovation lecture, look at the building your professional network with LinkedIn, learn how not only to be cookie cutter perfect, but also differentiate yourself so you get the best offer possible. And then as you reach out through this process, be persuasive. It's your job to charm, disarm, and persuade them about why you could be the next most valuable addition to the team. Let's take you through just one idea here before we wrap for today. We're getting very close to the end. Let's talk about what I think job search really is, because I'm doing an awful lot of talk about direct outreach, but an effective job search, and much more of this in my Supercharging Your Job Search lecture, is about creating a job search plan. Just like a sales plan, you have to have a plan or you're not going to get there. I'd prefer, rather than you chasing job postings, 50% of which statistically are nonsense. Why are they nonsense? Because they don't represent a job ready to hire today. That happens because of how those job ad placements are sold. They are sold up to 1 year in advance. And the only way you ever get a good deal is to buy a big number of job postings at once. So you're guessing how many postings this next year you might use. And before too long, you start posting everything left and right because it's a use them or lose them in 12 months. Reverse that whole process. Why don't you simply put together a statistical list? That's right, in the Supercharging Your Job Search, a statistical list of 30 organizations perfect to hire you. The only unknown is, do they currently have an opening? That's what a great recruiter does, by the way. They put together a list of 30 companies that would hire you tomorrow, and then they don't bother to look at the company website. They don't bother to look at the job boards. They simply pick up the phone, call 30 managers at 30 companies, and 2, 3, or 4 go, oh, I need a person just like this. Oh, you do? Tell me about your need. Tell me about the problem. Tell me about what you're trying to solve. What we don't tell them is the homework, the magic trick, the behind-the-scenes strategy of calling the right people. Devise the steps needed. I mean, come on. What John's saying isn't really possible, is it? Well, if it was, how would I align the sun, the moon, the stars, working backwards to make this work? Supercharging Your Job Search. Let's watch that one. Overcome the objections, because that's what a decision maker has to do, is object to you to figure out, how do you think? Can you persuade me? What do you bring to the table? Get a meeting, dazzle them. A little tissue, sorry. Get a meeting, dazzle them. Have them either give you that job or create a job for you because they're so inspired about what you bring to the table. Wherever you are in your job search process, take your first step. There is lots of help over on my Self-Recruiter YouTube channel. All my videos are collected there. Different aspects will help you in every avenue that you may be stuck on. So don't hesitate to figure out what has been holding you back and make this become a little bit more mechanical. And thank you guys for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget, we have a very interesting one coming up tomorrow. This was marketing yourself as to the decision maker, but tomorrow we have a very special live streamed Ask Self-Recruiter. And of course, I have the wrong old screen. It is not May 20th. This is tomorrow. That is June 17th. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. We're going to pull that one out of the feed, and I can be right here. If you need help, don't hesitate to reach out. Right over my Self-Recruiter website, under the Advice tab, you will find many different articles and things that will help you. Under the Services, you'll find all my full service information. If you need help recreating or redeveloping your career brand, your career story across the resume, across LinkedIn, if you need help coaching on interviews, all of that is over under my Services tab. And if you need to know, if you need to chat before you know which package is the right one for you, just reach out. We'll set up a time to talk. And happy job search. And let's take control of that career and get moving. It's a great time. Take care. Bye-bye.